Hi, everybody. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you so much. I'm thank you for making this happen, making it possible, and everybody who's helped, Chris and Nico and everybody I'm forgetting to make this so easy for me. Very grateful. And before we go on, I just want to say, Chris Whiteneck, that was amazing. If you have your music recorded, please send me a link where I can go buy some of it. I'd love to download some of it. I mean it. Wow, that was great. Victoria, thanks for that great intro and your wonderful prayerful voice. Really appreciate that. So, everybody, I'm happy to be back. I want to share some thoughts with you about mystery, big unanswerable questions, and what I feel is the most helpful, healthiest attitude to have about things we might never get answers to. So Victoria introduced me with the NCW degree, no credentials whatsoever, which I am proud of. But the truth is, I did actually escape from college with a real degree, a BS degree in geology. That's true. Geology. I was confused. Wanted to be a rock star. Little joke. Actually, I was and remain fascinated by the big mysteries of geology, the big questions that geology looks at, starting with how did all this gas and dust come together and coalesce to form our solar system and our planet, our home, Mother Earth? How did that happen? How long ago? And what stages have we gone through in 4.5 billion years of planetary growth and evolution? How did life, somehow 3.5 billion years ago, how did life out of inorganic matter arise? This is a huge mystery. We still have no idea how this happened. And then out of all of the quadrillion evolutionary possibilities, how is it that we get to be the dominant species at this little micro moment of geologic time? This tiny little moment, we're on top. How do all these geologic processes that go on every day all over the world affect our experience of existence, what we think and believe? Because geology plays an integral part in who we are and how we think. So I'm still fascinated by all of this stuff, and I still read about it and learn about it all the time. But it wasn't long after college that I realized I was even more fascinated by what I call bigger mysteries, like what is God? And if there is a God, then what is God like? What is consciousness? This amazing ability we have to self-reflect and think and plan, imagine and dream. What is death? And what happens to consciousness after death? What is free will? Is that a real thing? What is love? What are women really thinking? Big mysteries. So I thought we could have some fun with that today. And if we're going to do that, the logical place to start is with God, because if there is a God, the next question is, okay, well, what is God like? We all want to know, what is God like? And you've noticed that down through the ages, people have tried to tell us. Whether they knew or not, they thought they knew, and they've tried to tell us what God is like. What I find fascinating, though, is I was talking to one of my co-writers, songwriters, Richard Helm, and we've written a lot of songs together. We were talking about God. And we both realized that our concept of God, whatever we thought about God, was radically different from what it was 30, 40 years ago. Whatever it was 30, 40 years ago, it was totally different now. And maybe you can relate to that being in unity. What you think about God now is a lot different than what you grew up with. Well, I thought that was funny because I didn't think God had changed much for 30 years. Probably, if there's a God, probably the same as he was 30 years ago, or she. So that felt like an idea for a song. So we wrote this song called A Brief History of God. Now, you know that I'm a science guy, so I like to inject science into the songs whenever I can. Excuse me. So in the last verse of this song, sorry, I'm getting froggy. Hold on. So in the last verse of this song, we're going to bring in some physics. Physics. Now, I confess I had trouble with physics in college because when I signed up, I thought it said psychics. Wasn't what I expected. But there's a new theory in physics called string theory. You've probably heard that term. So when we get to the part of the song that's about strings, you'll know it's physics. Okay, so this is called A Brief History of God. Hey, wait a minute, what are you doing? A Brief History of God, or G string theory. Here we go. In the beginning, there was lots of competition, goddesses and gods of every disposition, from merciful to mean, from laid back to hyper, and little baby gods that flew around in diapers. Animals, pranksters, destroyers, creators, flute players, lute players, nymphs and satyrs. So many gods, it was hard to keep them sorted. God had multiple personality disorder. Well, keeping track of all these gods was no fun. So finally, some people said, let's cut it down to one. But the one God was angry, always finding fault. There was banishment and floods and pillars of salt. Well, why? Was God traumatized at an early age by standing too close to the Big Bang? Was it nature or nurture or Satan's little goblins? God had anger, management problems. And God had other issues that mess with serenity, like this long-term question of sexual identity. The feminine divine or the male autonomous? God was so confused. Am I androgynous? Then on top of that, what was challenging the most was trying to figure out what the heck's the Holy Ghost. God needed time off and checked into a clinic. Poor old God was becoming schizophrenic. While in for treatment, God sent some folks to teach us, like Krishna and Buddha, Muhammad and Jesus. On some things they agree, on other things they don't. And if you choose the wrong one, some say your soul is toast. Now everybody's praying by all these different rules. Muslims 5 times a day, Buddhists quite a few, Hindus, Jews, and Christians whenever there's a need, and Unitarians would rather plant a tree. Well, God's come a long way from that early dysfunction, and now science has brought us to this beautiful junction. The key to the theory is that every single thing is made up entirely of vibrating strings. Well, this is what musicians have known all along. The universe is really one big song. And there you have it, friends. That's the story so far. We're all just musical strings in God's big guitar. It's a happy thought, isn't it? We're always vibrating. We never stop. Sorry, I'm just really froggy. I'm going to get rid of it though. We never stop vibrating. And I love that thought. So the trick is to stay in tune. Stay in tune. Relationships are a lot about just staying in tune with each other. Okay, so a lot of people, prophets, spiritual leaders have told us that God is love. Now, we like that answer. What's better than love? What's more comforting? What feels better than love? Not much, if anything. So, again, as an observer, what's fascinating to me is the language, the fact that we use this one word, love, for such a wide range of emotional experiences. You know how they say the Eskimos have something like 50 words for snow, different kinds of snow, but we have this one word, love, for all these different kinds of emotion. So we have divine love, earthly love, motherly love, brotherly love, mystical love, physical love, unrequited love, unconditional love, faded love, jaded love, devotional love, puppy love, love of chocolate chip cookies. That's a big one. But the biggest one, romantic love, which I confess is still a huge mystery. It's to me, it's an amazing mystery because how is it that we can have so much chemistry and attraction and so much going on with one person, and there's another person who's equally attractive and magnetic? We have no chemistry with them at all. There's just no vibe there. There's no electricity. How is that? How is it that we can feel so much romantic love for someone for a long time and then somehow it goes away? That happens all the time, right? We all have had that happen. So, another big one is love at first sight. I don't know if you've experienced love at first sight. And if you haven't experienced it, do you believe in it? Do you believe in love at first sight? Well, it's happened to me a lot. It usually goes something like this. A man is riding on a train. He's heading south, it starts to rain. He sings a soft and sad refrain. He thinks he'll never love again. On the other track, a train is heading north through the rain. A woman looks out her window pane. Her life has been a lonely game. The two trains pass, they're moving fast. Faces flicker past for half a beat. Their two eyes meet, and instantly they both can see that they were meant to be. Yes, it happened just like that. It hit them like a thunderclap. Somehow they had seen the answer to their dreams passing on the other track. So at the next stop he gets off. A love like that must not be lost. He takes the next train heading north. He does not know she's done the same. So they pass again for half a beat. Their two eyes meet, but something's changed. It's not the same. Now they can see they were not meant to be. Well, she knew someday it would have to end. She wonders if they'll still be friends. Somehow they had seen the answer to their dreams. No, wait. She wonders if they'll still be friends. All the plans he made all begin to fade as she disappears around the bend. He will never be the same. Deep in his heart she will remain. He looks out through the falling rain. He thinks he'll never love again. I think he's gonna love again. And again and again and again and again. Oh, well, maybe you've had a relationship like that, brief. But Linda Berry, the great cartoonist, wrote that love is an exploding cigar we willingly smoke. Well, of course, we're going to smoke that cigar because, again, what feels better than love? John Bradshaw, remember John Bradshaw, wrote that falling in love is a high octane endocrine hormone cocktail. He said that's what it is. It's a high octane endocrine hormone cocktail. And that's true. The hormones that get ramped up when we quote unquote fall in love are measurable. This has been studied a lot. And it turns out that this hormone cocktail that happens when we fall in love actually has a lifespan. So it typically lasts from 6 to 18 months, the hormone cocktail of falling in love. So obviously, if the relationship is going to last beyond 18 months, beyond the lifespan of the hormone cocktail, the relationship is going to have to be based on something other than that, right? Something deeper, something more profound, maybe even something sacred. So I feel like we should at least have two words for love. We should at least do what the Greeks did. You know, they had eros for romantic love, and they had agape for divine love or brotherly love. And that way, if you wanted to tell somebody you loved them, but, you know, there wasn't going to be any going to bed involved, you could say, I agape you. There would be no confusion. I agape you. I feel like we should at least do that. Now, love, it's such a big word. It contains so much meaning. It's a word I use with music. I love music. We heard Chris this morning playing that amazing piano music. That just fills my heart. I love music. I love guitars. This is my nylon string guitar. This is my steel string 6-string. And this is my travel baby. This is my main gig guitar when I'm out on the road, not during COVID, obviously. So for Zoom sessions like what we're doing, I use the nylon string guitar because it's quieter and it's easy to keep it in balance. But most of the time on the road, I'm using this guitar. This is it's an expensive guitar, and I love this guitar. I love all my guitars. We musicians, we get very attached to our instruments. And so I love this guitar. But before I loved this guitar, I loved a different guitar. I had another guitar before this guitar that was maple. So it was a blonde, very unusual, striking blonde finish, and much bigger than this guitar. So it was noticeable. It was quite a beautiful guitar. I had that guitar for a long time, 10, 12 years, and we get very attached to our instruments. And they become part of us like our family, and I loved that guitar. But as much as I loved that guitar, I started thinking that I wanted a new guitar. I wanted a guitar that finger-picked a little differently and that sounded a little better acoustically, and a couple other things. I wanted some better electronics. So I really wanted a new guitar, but I wasn't doing anything about it. I was just thinking about it, and the desire was growing and growing and growing for months, and I wasn't doing anything about it because two reasons. One, it's hard for me to find a guitar I like. It's really a labor. I have to try a lot of them. But secondly, most guitar stores are staffed by what we could call young rock musicians. Now, this is not a knock on young rock musicians because I used to be one. But tell me if in your mind these two things go together. Young rock musicians, great customer service. Not always. So for those reasons, I'm just putting it off until fate intervenes in the Honolulu airport in the form of this woman I will affectionately call Attila the gate agent. Now, to this day, I do not know what Attila's problem was, power trip, bad lunch, I don't know. But she saw me walking up to the gate counter in the airport with my guitar in my soft case over my shoulder. And I get about 15 feet away from her gate counter, and she sees me and she points at me and she says in a loud voice, "That is not going on the plane with you." I thought, what? And I just kind of did a right turn and I thought, well, this is weird. This has never happened before. What's wrong with her? I fly every week with my guitar. So I realized to myself that she doesn't understand that I'm a professional musician. She just needs to know that. So I go up, I give her a big smile. I say, hey, you know what? I'm a professional musician. I've got an expensive guitar. I fly your airline every week. And she interrupts me and she says, no. I don't think you heard me. That is not going on the plane with you. And she walks away. I thought, well, this is going to be harder than I thought. So I think about it and I figure, well, she must be worried about the load. So I go back up, I give her another big smile. I say, hey, you know what? You must be worried about the load. How about we let everyone else board the plane? I'll get on last and we'll see if there's room for my guitar. And I knew there'd be room. It was one of those gigantic planes. And she says, I've already told you twice, that is not going on the plane with you. Now stop bothering me and decide what you're going to do. And she walks off. Well, now I'm worried. The plane is boarding. I have to get the guitar on the plane. I can't check the guitar in this soft case, flimsy little case. It's not meant to be checked in that case. So I just resort to begging. I just go up to her and I start pleading. Please, can you just try? Can we just talk to a flight attendant? Can we just see? What would it hurt? Could we just try? Ice cold, stone face, nothing. She says, look, you have two choices. You can leave it here. You can check it. It's not going with you. Now decide what you're going to do. I said, okay, well, I have to give it to you. I can't leave it here. So here it is. And please ask the baggage guys to put it somewhere safe so it won't get hurt. She just takes it and walks off. So I get on the plane. It turns out I'm sitting in the front of the bulkhead seat, front of coach. They call that the bulkhead. And across from me is the little jump seat where the flight attendant sits while the plane is taking off. So the flight attendant sits down and we start talking. We have a lot of time. The taxi time is a long time. So I tell her the whole story about Attila. And to her credit, she is appalled. And when I finish telling her what happened, she just says, I have to apologize for our airline. This is wrong. I'm really sorry. This should not have happened. We're not all like this. Please don't hold it against us. We try to accommodate musicians because we know these instruments are valuable and mean a lot to you. And I'm really sorry this happened. Please don't hold it against us. I apologize for our airline. And she got up to go to work. I felt better, and I thought that was the end of it. But she evidently told all the other flight attendants, because when we got to San Francisco and it was my turn to get off the plane, all of the flight attendants are lined up, all 7 of them, and I'm walking by them, and they say, hey, wait, here's your guitar. Look, they brought it up for you. I said, oh, great. And then I had this thought, well, wait a minute, let's look at it. So we unzip the case, and it's just smashed. It's splinters. It's not going to be played again. It's like the baggage guys thought they were Pete Townsend at a Who concert. So I felt bad. They felt bad. 3 of them marched me down to baggage service, and they said, look, this guy got a bad deal. We think you should make it right, and we will vouch for it. Here's our names, employee numbers, phone numbers. Here's everything. Please take care of this man because this was wrong. And then they left because it was midnight and they had to work the next day. So here I am in the bowels of the San Francisco airport at midnight with nobody around except this girl across the counter who looks about 12. And she looks up at me with a sweet face and she says, I can't help you. I'm just 18. I don't have any authority to do anything like this. And you'll have to come back at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning and talk to the manager. But I need to tell you something before you leave. We have a company policy that we never compensate for musical instruments. Never. We just don't do it. It's a firm policy. but if you want to come back in the morning, you can talk to the manager. Okay, so I leave and I go to where I'm spending the night. Now, you know how hard it is to sleep when you're really upset. And my feelings for Attila were not something I could share with you outside of group therapy. I was so angry and I couldn't sleep. I got up in the morning exhausted from the anger, from not sleeping. I felt horrible. I'm driving out to the airport and I just started praying. I just said, God, please just help me be calm. That's all I want. I'm letting go of everything. I just want to be calm. If you can just help me be calm, that will be enough. And it worked. By the time I got to the airport, I was fine. I was fine with whatever happened. And I went in, the manager was there. We sat down. I had the names and numbers of everybody. I told her the whole story from beginning to end. And she just kind of shook her head and said, well, wait. And she disappeared. And eventually came back with this other higher manager. And these two ladies sat down and they said, look, we have a company policy. We don't compensate for musical instruments. I said, I know that. I heard that. And they said, well, we've talked it over and we think we need to buy you a new guitar. I said, really? They said, yep, just find one you like. We'll pay for it. So I got out of there before they could say anything else. And I asked my musician friends in San Francisco, where do I go? Where do I go to buy a new guitar? And they said, there's only one place. The best place is the Haight-Ashbury Music Center. Great. So off I go to Haight-Ashbury. Now, I don't know if you folks in Chapel Hill or anybody else who's watching have been to Haight-Ashbury, in the last however long, but I'm from Kansas. And Haight-Ashbury is this little corner of the Twilight Zone. You see the past, the present, the future. You see it all there on the sidewalk. Every personal preference is right there. You see it, you smell it. It's like a smorgasbord for the senses. And I'm walking around Haight-Ashbury trying to find this guitar store, getting a little high in the process. And I finally find it after about an hour. And it turns out to be the best guitar store I've ever been at. They have great guitars. They have great salespeople. For 2 days, they bring me guitars and they let me play them. They answer all my questions, but they don't hover, they don't pressure. They're just great. And after about a day and a half or so, they bring me this. And I start playing it. And immediately, I could tell it was different. It fit my hands. It was easy to play. It sounded right. It just felt fantastic. It's got great electronics in it. Really much better than my old electronics, my old guitar. I played it the rest of the day. They let me take it out of the store that night to do a concert with it. And that's when I knew this was my new guitar. Well, this is a way better guitar than my old guitar. Like I said, it's easier to play. It's got better electronics. It's got me in love with playing guitar again. And it's $600 more expensive than my old guitar. Totally paid for by the airline. And the thing is, I owe it all to Attila, the gate agent. You never know who's going to turn out to be an angel in your life. They might not look like it at first. But when these things happen, and I know they've happened to you, they happen to everybody. When these things happen, and we look back and we get some perspective about this giant coincidence or this giant connection that we didn't know existed, it amazes me. It fills me with a sense of awe, a sense of wonder that this happens. And I think the key word here is wonder, a sense of wonder. Look at it this way. If the mystics are right, if God is everything, if everything is God, everything, every atom, then everything is connected on a level that how could we possibly mentally ever really grasp that? the extent of that. That fills me with a sense of awe, a sense of wonder. And I think wonder is the key word, because what the best mystics and the best scientists have in common is a sense of wonder at the workings of the universe, a sense of awe about it all. And what the best of those have in common, the ones that we remember as our teachers, is a sense of humor, the ability to take it lightly. Einstein said, once you can accept that the universe is something from nothing, wearing stripes with plaid is easy. Einstein had a great sense of humor. So a sense of wonder and a sense of humor are the two attitudes that I feel are indispensable, at least for me, when it comes to these big questions, these big mysteries. And there are also two places I have to go every day, humor and wonder. Just to keep my sanity, my mental health, I have to experience wonder and humor every day. You know, we talked about consciousness before. We are conscious beings. We can imagine, we can wonder, we can question, why am I here? What does this mean? What's the reason? Well, we might never get answers to questions like that. So why not be able to enjoy it? Enjoy the mystery and have some fun with it. That's my nugget for you. That's what works for me. Now, obviously, there's a lot more mysteries. We didn't cover death. We didn't cover free will. We didn't cover love too much, or what are women really thinking? But you know what? I have songs about all of those topics on my website, and it's free to listen. So help yourself. What I'd like to do now, let me just tell you one more thing. There's a German theologian I like named Karl Rahner who said something great. He said, there are two kinds of people in the world: people who need certainty. That's a better hand signal. The people who need certainty, and people who seek understanding. I'm just going to suggest to you that it's better to be a seeker of understanding, because, just for this reason, when you're sure you're right, you're stuck with what you already know. Make sense? When you're sure you're right, you're stuck, because the learning stops. So be a seeker. All right, so I'd like to take those thoughts into meditation, and I'm going to just play a little music under the meditation. Not with this guitar, though. It's out of tune. Okay. I'm going to give you some poetry from a German poet, Rilke, Rainer Maria Rilke. Just a couple of short verses that I really, really love, and a very short verse from Hafez to finish it off. So I invite you to sit back and relax and just absorb whatever you hear for a couple of minutes. Be patient toward all this that is unsolved in your heart. And try to love the questions themselves. Do not now seek the answers which cannot be given you, because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. So live the questions now. You must give birth to your images. They're the future waiting to be born. Fear not the strangeness that you feel. The future must enter you long before it happens. And this from Hafez. Just rest now. Just rest. Let me bring you trays of food, something cool to drink, and use my soft words as a cushion for your head. For this is the hardest work that you will ever do. This separation from God is the hardest work that you will ever do. Okay, well, let's take a nice big deep breath. Just bring our attention back to the screen. And I'm going to finish up with a song, but it's going to be played in a video because it's a timely video that a friend of mine put to one of my songs. It's an award-winning song, actually, that I wrote trying to incorporate both a sense of humor and a sense of wonder and some science. It's a kind of a little science lesson. So I hope you enjoy it. Before we play it, I just want to say thanks again to Victoria and Nico and Chris and all of you for the gift of your attention. It means way more than I can possibly convey. I hope I get to come see you again in person, not too distant future. Thanks again for today, and come see me on my website. I have a newsletter. You get 4 free songs for signing up and just trying it. It's a fun, irregular, irreverent newsletter. And anyway, till next time, here's my last song, All These Atoms. Nico, thank you.